Hey guys, in this video I'm going to talk you guys through how to find max, mins, and zeros on the graphing calculator. So it's round to 2 decimal places and then sketch the graph when you're done. Alright, so this is your graph. I would graph it on a calculator first. So I'm just going to pull mine out. Alright, so here's my calculator. Go to y equals, I'm going to clear what I have in there. I'm just going to type my x to the third plus 2x squared minus 6, it's not working out, x to the third plus 2x squared minus 6x minus 7. Type that in. You can press graph. I have a crazy window right now. If you just want kind of the normal standard window, I would change my x min to -10, x max to 10. You guys can see that. Alright, and then I would change y min to -10, y max to 10. Again, it's kind of just a guess. If you're not sure what you should change it to, try this window. If it doesn't work, you can always change it to see everything later on. Alright, so this looks pretty good. When it says we want to find max, mins, and zeros, right here is a max, a very highest point. A minimum is the very lowest point. And then zeros are really x-intercepts. So 1, 2, 3. We need to find those. All right, so first let's start with the maximum. If we want to find that, we said yesterday all you have to do is press second trace max. So second trace, go down to max, which is number 4. All right, and use your arrows to get over to that max. Right here is maybe about where the maximum is. Notice it's asking me for a left bound. That means I need to click to the left of that maximum. So use my left arrow. That right there is definitely to the left. So once you think you're to the left, press enter. Now it asks for a right bound. So use the right arrow and get a little bit to the right of the maximum. To me, that looks a little bit to the right. You could press enter when you're to the right. Then it says guess. It just means your calculator is going to take a guess. Press enter. And you should get that maximum. We're supposed to round to, I believe, 2 decimal places. So let's write that down. -2.23, 5.24 we would have to round to. So let's write that down as our maximum point. We found our maximum point to be -2.23, 5.24. All right, we could kind of estimate where that falls. -2.23, 5.24, I don't know, maybe somewhere about there. Doesn't have to be perfect, but we're going to have to graph this later on, so it can't hurt to put that point on the graph. Now let's work on our minimum. Minimum is basically the same thing. We're just going to do second trace min. So go to your calculator screen. Again, press second trace. Go down to minimum. That's number 3. The minimum is kind of hard to see here. Notice that this text at the bottom is actually kind of covering up our minimum. If you don't want that to happen, you can make your window bigger. Think if you want to see further down, you have to make your y min, think this is your y-axis, your y min should be lower than -10. Right now it is -10. If I want to see more, I might change my window to -20 maybe, just so I can see more of what's going on there. So now if I graph it, let's see. Now that minimum is kind of in the middle of our screen. If we want to find it, second trace, go down to minimum. Again, it's right there. Now we can just see it a little better. The text isn't covering it. So use your arrows to get on top of that. That's about where the minimum is. If they're asking me for a left bound, I need to click a point to the left of it. So I might actually backtrack a little. That's definitely to the left. Press enter. Now arrow to the right. We want a point that's to the right of the minimum. That looks like it's to the right. I could press enter. When it says guess, enter again. And that's going to be that point. Let's round to 2 decimal places. It looks like 0.89. Since that's a 6, we have to round up to 0.90, comma, -10.05. 0.90, comma, -10.05. Let's try to plot that on our graph. 0.90 is about 1. Go down to about -10. That's probably about down there. All right, next, we have to find our zeros. Zeros are just x-intercepts. All right, basically, you can find those whenever your function here is equal to 0. So we're going to do this like we did in the notes yesterday. We can type one side into y1 in our calculator, the other in y2, and we just want to know where those graphs intersect. So I'm actually going to go back to the graphing screen. Y equals right here. Actually, I already typed that one in y1. I'm going to type the 0 in y2. You want them both to be graphed. Remember, you won't see this graph. Y equals 0 is a horizontal line. It's on top of the x-axis. You won't see it because it's literally graphed on top of your x-axis. But basically, we want to know where this graph that we have intersects the x-axis. That will help us find our zeros. So all we have to do is press second trace intersect to see where those two graphs intersect. Go down to intersect. You could press enter 3 times, 1, 2, 3. It will always give you the 0 that you're closest to. So my cursor was hanging out about here. It gave me the one I was closest to, which looks like -1, 0. So we could write that down. -1, 0 is one of those. Now let's do another one. Same thing. Sorry, this light kind of makes it hard to see. Let me see if I can fix that. No, that doesn't work. We might have to deal with the light there. All right, second trace, intersect. Before we start pressing enter 3 times, let's arrow over so we're closer to this 0. We already found this one. If we arrow over to where we're close to the other one, if we now press enter 3 times, 1, 2, 3, again, it gives you the one you're closest to. So that's -3.19, 0. So -3.19, 0. All right, we have one more, the one all the way to the right. Let's try that one. This one right here, second trace, go down to intersect. Let's use our cursor before we start pressing enter. We got to get close to that x-intercept. We're pretty close right now. Now if we press enter 1, 2, 3 times, we get 2.19, 0. Oops, 2.19, 0. All right, so those are your 3 x-intercepts. Let's do our best to plot those. -3.19, that's about -3. Doesn't have to be perfect. Then -1, 0, that's about here. And then 2.19, that's about here. And from that, it said we should be able to sketch the graph, label the max, mins, and zeros. You don't have to actually label them. As long as you just make sure those points are on your graph, which they are, we can draw a picture from here. Maybe something like this. Put arrows on both ends. That was our maximum. This is our minimum. Those are our 3 x-intercepts.